Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing my August reading wrap-up. I read 15 books in August. I was a little bit busy with preparing for school and everything, but now that school has started, so I think my average is going to be around 15 books a month, which is a little less than usual, but that's okay. It was a pretty okay month this month. I had 3 DNFs, which is quite a lot, but I also was in a little bit of a reading slump too, so I don't think it's that surprising. So to start off, the first book I read this month was I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai. This book was an adult mystery thriller, and it actually won a Goodreads award for mystery thriller. And I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, it was not thrilling and the mystery was not engaging. Like, I honestly did not care about the mystery. It was set in like the present timeline, but we were just being told about what happened in the past. Like, the story was not moving forward in the present. So why don't we just have like a dual timeline where the past is the past and the present we're actually moving forward and solving the mystery. I DNF'd this book at 43% and literally nothing happened. Like, if I think back on the book, I can't think of a single thing that happened. Like, honestly, like, I'm being completely honest, I can't think of a single thing. It was literally so boring. I'm just like, maybe it might have been a great literary fiction book or something, but it got an award for like best thriller. Like, I wanted to be thrilled. I wanted at least a good mystery. Like, it didn't even have to be that thrilling, but at least a good engaging mystery. But no. So if you want maybe a speculative literary fiction with a mystery on the side, you should go for it. I honestly can't say anything about the mystery because I don't even know who did it or what happened, but the writing was very literary fiction-esque and speculative and sort of like tackling different themes, I believe. So in that aspect, yes. In every other aspect, no. Okay, and for DNFs, I don't give ratings, but on Goodreads, I just put it as 1 star because what else could it be? Okay, the next book I read was All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. This book was, I read these books as part of a video where I was reading thrillers for a week, so for the next like couple books it's going to be all thrillers. This is also an adult thriller, and it was written in a very interesting way where it was written backwards in time. So like it was written where it's like, how do I even explain it? Like, imagine it like this, like June 31st, it's like is the first page, the first chapter, and then it goes June 30th, June 29th, June 28th. So something happens on the first day, and then we're just seeing how we got there. Honestly, it read like it was written normally. Like, it didn't I can see how she was trying to distinguish herself in the genre because there's so many mysteries just like hers, but it honestly read normally, and I think it would have been a pretty good mystery thriller even if she had written it that way. I honestly thought it took a little bit away from the story. I don't think it was needed, but the reveal at the end was really good. I did not see it coming. I gave it 3.5 stars for that because I really enjoyed the mystery overall, and aside from the way it was written and the whole backwards thing, I thought it was a really good mystery thriller. And I think I will be picking up more of her books. The next book I read was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is my first Liane Moriarty book, and I am a big fan now. I will definitely be picking up more of her work. I give this a 4.5 star. It was probably the best book I read all month. It was a thriller, but more of a woman's fiction thriller. Like, I'm gonna say every aspect of the book I enjoyed, and the only thing that kept it from being a 5-star was the mystery reveal at the end. Because I feel like the reveal just fell so flat. Like, we were building up to this huge thing, like there was so much anticipation. At the end of every chapter they would have like a little interview where everyone's like talking about what happened, but we don't know what happened yet, and they were like hyping it up to be this big thing. Then we get to the end and it was kind of like meh. but like in the build-up, each chapter, the fact that it was multiple POVs, the small town setting, everything that's like happening, it was like a very much like, I'm not gonna say it read like Gossip Girl, because like Gossip Girl is like completely different from this, but like an adult version of that, like a bunch of women in a small town gossiping, mothers, and just like talking about everyone's affairs, but then like meanwhile behind closed doors no one knows what's actually happening. So that part of it was really interesting. I loved the characters. It was tackling such like important, deep issues, but then it was also like really funny. So like, I thought it was just a great book, and I'm really excited to read more of her books. So this is a literary women's fiction plus thriller done right, where it's not boring, but I'm gonna say it also wasn't, like, the thriller mystery part wasn't overtaking the story. And yeah, it was really good. 4.5 stars. Okay. Next book I read was She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. This is also my first Mary Kubica book. She writes a lot of thrillers, I believe. And this one I rated a 3 stars. I enjoyed it quite a bit, I would say. I've read so many thrillers, YA, adult thrillers, literary fiction thrillers, normal thrillers, and I will say that this one did not stand out to me. It was not my favorite. The twist was pretty surprising, but it just wasn't like that enjoyable. Like I would say it wasn't like very there was like a jaw drop moment, but aside from that, the rest of the story kind of fell flat. I'm gonna see what it says here. I'm reading other people's reviews just to see what people thought. Yeah, so it's just like the main character is trying to figure out a thriller, but she also mysteries, but she also has like secrets of her own. I also felt like there was a reveal that happened like I can't remember how much through, maybe like 60%. If you want to know my more in-depth thoughts about this book, go to my other video. I'll link it down below. But there was a reveal that happened, and I feel like it just wasn't needed. Like, we were getting so many reveals, and I feel like that one just went a little overboard. But other than that, it was pretty good. It was like a solid mystery thriller, just with a little bit of like branching out. Like, we're not focusing on just one mystery. There's a lot of other things happening. And yeah, so that was She's Not Sorry. Next book I read was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This is my 3rd Riley Sager book. I've enjoyed his books quite a bit in the past. This one just was probably and is probably going to be my most disappointing new release read of the year. I gave it 2 stars. Oh, well, here on my Goodreads it says 2.5 stars, so let's just stick to that, but like 2.5 stars. It was just very boring, and there were a lot of different POVs that we just didn't need. Like, I didn't see the reason for us to be having all these POVs. And then and this was also like a mystery thriller with and there was like a dual timeline. We have flashbacks to the past, and we had like so many, like, the whole time in the book we were following a specific plot line and it was like a paranormal like plot line that was supposed to be linked to the death of the kid is missing. They don't know if he's dead, but like supposed to be linked to the disappearance of the kid. And then in the end, this whole mystery, this whole paranormal sort of like cultish plot we were following literally has nothing to do with the story. Like, nothing. Like, I don't even know why that was included, because it had nothing to do with the story in the end. So, and the reveal was like, we were only following like 5 characters, and it had to have been one of them. So like and then you obviously knew that like you obviously could start using elimination. So it's kind of like we know one of them did it, but we just don't know why, sort of. So when the reveal came, it was like, okay, well, like, okay, cool. So yeah, it was just boring. I didn't DNF it because it was kind of fast-paced due to all the random POVs. But I finished it pretty quickly. I read it and I was like, probably one of the worst. I don't want to say worst because like it's a book. Like books are not bad. It was probably my least favorite thriller I've ever read. Adult thriller, because I read a lot of YA thrillers too. So that is all the thrillers that I read as part of my Reading Thrillers for a Week video. And then the next video I did was reading new releases for a week. So the first book I read in that video, obviously, in here I'm just gonna like quickly wrap up, but if you want more in depth, I'll also link that video down below. The first book I read in that video was 1,000 Broken Pieces by Tilly Cole. This is the second book in the 1,000 Boy Kisses duology, I don't know, but first of all, right off the bat, I'm gonna say it did not need to be a sequel to the first book. I think she could have marketed it as a standalone book because it had no connection to the first book besides the fact that the main character was the sister of the other character in the first book. It was a YA romance. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed everything about the book besides the romance. First issue I had is that the plot was not moving forward. The entire book was the inner monologues of the characters, and I love a good inner monologue. I love delving deep into the thoughts of the characters, especially like damaged or like characters that are grappling through some sort of problem. Like I love reading an inner monologue, but I also want there to be some plot, you know, like sometimes. Like, the only book I've read with no plot that was actually done well was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. That book had no plot, but it was so atmospheric that we didn't need a plot. But this book had no atmosphere, no plot, nothing besides the inner monologues of the characters, which was okay, but I wish there was more of the plot going on. Also, the romance happened really fast. If you're a fan of slow burn, do not read this book because there was no slow burn whatsoever. It just went like that. They met each other, they're with each other, third act breakup, they're back together. All of that happened in like the first 50% of the book. I didn't really feel the chemistry between the characters, honestly. It felt kind of like, I don't really like it when the romance like between two characters happens through like trauma dumping or like things like that, and that's kind of what it was, because the book is a lot about grief. She's grieving over her sister, he's grieving over his brother. It's a dual POV, and so like they're at like sort of like this therapy camp together, and that's where they get together, which I feel like romances like that are really kind of iffy. And I feel like in the book there are mentions of the counselors there saying that their relationship isn't appropriate for like the time and the thing, and I feel like we should have like delved into that a little more, and we should have listened to the counselors a little more, because that kind of makes sense to me. If you're in that sort of state of mind, you're at the camp to move forward with your life. You shouldn't be like, you know, having a relationship through trauma dumping, stuff like that. But it was a sweet romance. The characters were pretty nice, and my favorite part of the book, and the reason it was 3 stars over 2.5, is because the way the characters were learning to move on, to grapple with their grief, was done really well. And if you want to read a book about those issues and about characters going through it, then this would be the one for you. But it came nowhere near the first book, if you were wondering. Okay, the next book was Silent Sister by Megan David Hazar, another new release. This is a YA thriller. My favorite part about this book was the writing, which sometimes can be a great thing and sometimes not. But if it's the writing that bumped this up to a 3 stars, then you can expect that the plot wasn't that good. It was dual POV, 2 different characters. I did vastly prefer one POV to the other, just because one of the sisters was like a poetry writer, and the author is really good at writing poetry. So when she was writing the poetry in the point of view of the sister, it was done so well. I was highlighting pages of the book. The writing was very good. I will definitely read her next book. But the plot fell flat. It was in a memory loss trope, like the amnesia trope, which I don't really like that much, because I just feel like it gets really boring after a while. Like, we don't know anything, the character doesn't know anything, we're just kind of in this misty haze where we're trying to figure out stuff, but we also are getting flashbacks to stuff, and it just kind of gets boring after a while. And also the reveal at the end was just really weird, and I just didn't think it was necessary. Like, I didn't get it at all, and I can see what she was trying to do with it. I just don't think it was executed properly. I don't know, I just didn't prefer it. It wasn't my favorite trope to end with. But yeah, it was a solid YA thriller. I just think there's so many better ones, and if you want me to do a separate video where I recommend thrillers, I can do that because it's one of my favorite genres. Next, another thriller, but this one's a psychological thriller, which is even better. House of Glass by Sarah Pekinen. This was, as I said, an adult psychological thriller. I gave it 4 stars, probably my second favorite read this month. It was so atmospheric, so fast paced. It was like set in this like eerie mansion. It was very fast paced, even though we weren't getting multiple POVs. It was just so much was happening. It was scary, it was thrilling, the mystery was really good. I did sort of see the ending coming, but I also didn't, so it was surprising. I feel like in thrillers where there are so little characters, you obviously can guess which one it's going to be, but you don't know anything about the backstory. There was a really creepy psychological aspect to it, which I feel like could have been developed further, but that plotline kind of like fell flat towards the end, which was okay. But it was one of my favorite parts of the book. I loved the characters. Everything about this book was just amazing. I just didn't rate it 5 stars just because I don't think it's going to be something I remember for a long time, and it wasn't like my favorite thriller ever. It was like a solid one, which I would recommend. Next, we're gonna go into some romance. I read the Breakup Pact by Emma Lord. This is a fake dating adult romance book. Fake dating is literally one of my most favorite tropes, and this book did not do it for me. I gave it a 2-star rating. Probably one of my most least favorite reads of this month in terms of romance books. I did not feel the chemistry between the main characters. I felt like the fake dating was like they were fake dating and it was on social media, and it was also a revenge plot. So I feel like the fact that their whole relationship was being seen by not just like their close friends and family, but also everyone on social media was kind of pressuring them to get together, and they were kind of like convincing themselves that they belonged together. But I wasn't feeling the chemistry, even though they were like teenage friends or something. Like, it was not like necessarily childhood friends, but like they had a past together, and I just wasn't feeling the chemistry. The plot was super boring, and like really honestly nothing was really happening besides the fake dating. Like, I like romance with a little bit of a side plot as well, and I didn't get that here. And I just didn't really like the supporting characters at all either. And I think I've read every single one of Emma Lord's books, and she writes such good, I think this is her first adult romance, but she writes such good YA romance and YA contemporary books, and I feel like she should stick to that, honestly. This was a great like delve into the adult romance, but I think she should just stick to what she knows best, which is writing those YA romance and contemporary books. Another romance I read was 4 Weekends and a Funeral by Ellie Palmer. This book, my least favorite part of the book was the romance, which obviously isn't a good sign. I gave it a 3.5 stars, or maybe a 3 stars, I can't remember, but 3 or 3.5 stars. It was a grumpy sunshine romance, and if you are a fan of like grumpy sunshine and banter, then this is probably, you're gonna like it. But if you push the romance aside, the book was mainly focusing on like the theme of acceptance. Like, the main character is grappling with a lot of guilt, and she's trying to like do things that like she's trying to make the most of life because she's guilty that she has a higher chance to live, and she's trying to do these like adventurous things that really don't align with her personality. And I feel like the theme of acceptance in the book, like the way the character's going through it, the way she's learning new things and realizing that she doesn't have to be someone she's not, was like the best part of the book. I loved the themes. And my favorite part about the romance is the way he was trying to like convince to her that, like, help her go through that guilt. But other than that, I thought it was a little bit boring as well. It was a little slow, and it wasn't my favorite adult romance that I've read, but it was solid, so I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 stars, and I would recommend it. It just wasn't my favorite, and it wasn't something I would pick up again, like reread or anything like that. But it was set in Minnesota, so bonus points. Next, another thriller, Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This was a 4-star thriller for me. It was like a family thriller where like the whole family is like, all the siblings, the parents, they all have secrets, they don't like each other, they're stuck in a house for the weekend. It was so fast-paced, so good. I was literally invested in the story so hard. Like, I literally did not know what was happening. I could not guess who did it. I loved it so much, except for the ending. It just fell flat again. Like, I just didn't get it. I was like, why did it have to end like that? But one part of the ending was pretty good, and then the other part was like meh. But other than that, the build up to it and everything was so good. I loved the setting. It was really good, and I definitely will pick up more of her books, and I gave it a 4 stars. I think I mentioned that. Next book I read was If I Wake by Nikki Moyes. This was a YA contemporary book, but with sort of like, I wouldn't say fantasy, but sort of like a magical realism aspect to it. If you want to read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, so I'll put it up there, The Midnight Library, but with a YA main character, you have to read If I Wake. It is such a beautiful story. Honestly, it may have been done even better than The Midnight Library. It was just so well done. The ending, I will say, took me a little bit by surprise. I wasn't expecting it, and again, I just didn't get it. I don't think it needed to end like that, but the way, like, it's like we have her like real life, and then we also have her life in her dreams, and each time we go in the dreams, it's set somewhere different. So at one point it's set in like ancient Egypt, in Pompeii, then we get to more recent places in London, bombing of Pearl Harbor. Like, if you love historical fiction, you'll probably also really like this one. We're visiting all these different places. It also tackles the theme of mental health, and it's just such a good book. I gave it 4 stars. It really was The Midnight Library, but in a YA format. I honestly don't know which book came first, so I'm not gonna say like which one inspired, if I think one of them inspired the other, but they were both very similar. Okay, 3 books left. The next book I read was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Was this my first Lucy Foley book? Let me check, actually. Lucy Foley. No, this is not, okay, no. This is not my first Lucy Foley book. I have read the, what's it called? The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which I really enjoyed, and I'm currently reading The Hunting Party. Paris Apartment, Hunting Party. I feel like all her books kind of sound the same. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and that one's, I'm only like 10% through, but that one's pretty good too. The Guest List, I also gave it a 4 stars. It had so many different POVs, and this is a thriller where the different POVs are done right. Like, every single POV had a reason to be there, and you don't realize why. You're like, okay, why is the wedding, it was set at like a wedding and like at an island, so it was also very atmospheric. So at the beginning you're like, why is the wedding, what do you call it, like the wedding designer, the wedding planner, why does she have like a POV? Why does the random friend's husband have a POV? Why does the random uncle have a POV? And then all the stories, I love stories where like they weave together, like the puzzle pieces are falling into place. That was this. It was so good. The ending was actually really good. I didn't give it 5 stars just because there were some parts of it that I didn't really like, but overall it was a really solid thriller and I definitely would recommend it. I feel like she does thrillers really well. Maybe I'll do a video dedicated just to her once I read more of her books. Then Catch the Sun by Jennifer Hartman. This was a YA romance book, and I'm just gonna update my, okay, so this starts off as like a YA romance book, and then literally so much starts to happen. Like, okay, so the first like 50% of the book is like your average like cheesy it sort of gets off Wattpad vibes, which I love a good Wattpad story, but it was like a little bit like, once you pass the 50% mark, you're like, whoa, like where did my Wattpad story go? What? It's like, it gives Wattpad, first it gives Wattpad insta-love, and then it gives Wattpad like mafia in like the most unhinged way. Like the most unhinged stuff is happening. Like there's no mafia, but it's like unhinged. So literally, so like the first 50%, I kind of didn't like our main character. It's dual POV and they're childhood best friends to lovers. I didn't like our main character. I felt like the way she spoke was just like, kind of like, it just like got on my nerves a little bit. Like I didn't like her as a character. It was giving Wattpad, but like the romance was really cute, and there were a lot of quotes that I underlined just because I was like, okay, I was like biting my lip, like, and like kicking my feet. I was like, okay, this is kind of cute. And then at the 50% mark, there's the first plot twist where I was like, what is going on? Like, how is it happening? Then the second plot twist, and I was like, whoa. And then there's like the romance, it has like stopped, and then there's like more stuff happening. There's like a mystery going on. There's, I don't know, it's just so much happening. But I actually loved the ending. I love when the third act breakup is good. Like, usually I hate third act breakups. I'm like, why is this even happening? But when it's done right, it's so good. And in this book, it was done right. I loved the ending. It was very cute. Just don't go into this expecting like a cutesy romance, because literally after the 50% off, it goes off the rails. Like, I'm not even joking. We're like, it's like literally goes crazy. But yeah, it was pretty good. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 stars. I was grappling between like a 3.5 or a 4-star. I was thinking at some point like maybe a 3.75, but that's too much decimals for me. I'm just gonna stick with my 3.5 stars. Okay, the last book I read in August, I don't even think this counts as read because it was literally the night before school, or like, no, the night before September 1st. I was like, okay, let me pick up this book and I'll probably include it in my September wrap up, but then I ended up DNFing it, so I was like, okay, I'll just include it this month. It's Daydream by Hannah Grace. Before you come at me, no, I have not read Icebreaker. No, I have not read Wildfire. But I was told that these 3 books are standalones and you don't have to read the first 2 books. And based on what I've read about the first 2 books, first of all, I don't like I don't like the one night stand trope at all. So I was like, I'm not gonna read Wildfire. And I've heard too many horror stories about the first book that I was like, no. Like, especially because like I don't like to read, I skip spice scenes in books, and I'm not about to skip the entire book. Like, that's a waste of my time. So I was like, okay, let's try the third book. I literally need to read you this quote. When I read this quote, I immediately closed the book and I was like, I am not finishing this book. So I didn't DNF it right at first. I was like, okay, maybe I'll continue it. I tried continuing this book like 3 times. Like, I picked it up, okay, I was like, I'm DNFing it. Then I picked it up again, I was like, no, we're DNFing it. And then when this quote came, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I read it on my Kindle, so I'm just gonna open it up here. Okay, so I got through 16%, which is not that much, but I just couldn't continue. The characters, it was dual POV, and the characters were like nice, but I literally hate when the romance happens just based on attraction. Like, he sees her and he's like, oh, like, she's super hot or something, and then it's like the romance happens. Like, you don't even know the girl. Like, what if she's like you don't even know who she is. Like, you don't even know her name. What do you mean you're falling in love with her? Like, what is going on here? So literally, that's my least, like, when romances are like that, I just can't do it. And that was literally this book. Like, he sees her, and then, okay, this is 16%. They've like spoken to each other once, And I don't even think they know anything about each other. Like, they've literally spoken to each other once, and he goes like this. They're literally at this like party, and she's like, and I didn't even, okay, apparently this book is like the tutoring romance trope, and I didn't even get to that part of the book. Literally, she goes, okay, so they're at the party, and she's talking to this guy she knows from book club, and then she's like, hi, oh my god, what's his name? Like, she can't remember. And then he's like, you can't remember my name? I'm her. After we enjoyed that book together. This is not the love interest. He was like, Hen, you clearly... And then he goes to his friend. He's like, Hen, you clearly don't talk about me enough. And then Henry goes, I never talk about you, Chris. Henry shrugs in the nonchalant way he does. It's only important that she remembers my name. Hello? They've literally met each other like once at book club. She does not know who he is. All he knows is that he thinks she's attractive, and she's attracted to him as well. It's only important. Like, I'm sorry, you are not like Cardan Greenbrier or Zayden or like Reese from Akatar, or like, you're not some like, this is not a fantasy enemies to lovers where you're about to say that. Like, I would squeal if that was written in like a fantasy enemies to lovers book, but not here. I'm sorry, I just could not do it after that quote. I was like, what is going on? Like, I thought this was a tutoring romance. I don't see any tutoring happening here. So yeah, 16%. I was done with the book, DNF, and I think I should have just never picked it up, considering that I never was going to pick up the first 2 books. And yeah, so 15 books I read in August. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and remember to look down below and watch my other videos from this month, and I'll see you guys next week for a new video. Bye!